All right, today we are diving deep into what some people call America's most haunted home, the Bellair House. We're going to explore the chilling legend behind it, break down the actual scientific investigation that went down there, and uncover the pretty terrifying evidence they found inside. So let's get right into it.
You know, the whole story here kinda kicks us with a challenge to skeptics everywhere. The claim is that the stuff that happened inside the Bellair House isn't just folklore, but, documented reality. So, let's take a look at the evidence and maybe decide for ourselves.
Every haunted place has a story, right? Well, for Bellair House, its entire spooky reputation is built on this one really tragic legend that's been told for generations.
So, the local story goes something like this. Years and years ago, a young girl named Emily lived in the house. But then, after some kind of mysterious, tragic incident, she was just gone, vanished. And the legend says her spirit never found peace, that she's still there, trapped inside those walls.
For years, you've got people, visitors, locals, you name it, reporting all these unsettling experiences. We're talking strange noises echoing in empty rooms, seeing shadowy figures move right at the edge of your vision, and just all sorts of unexplainable paranormal stuff. It was these constant, persistent reports that finally led to a formal scientific investigation.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. The story shifts from just, local spooky tales to actual fact-finding. A team of really experienced paranormal investigators shows up, and they're not armed with superstitions. They've got scientific gear, totally determined to capture some real proof of what was going on.
Let's set the scene. It's September 14th, 2019. The Ghost Research Society, that's the team made up of Barbara, Dale, Dean, and Lori, kicks off their investigation. And they do a full lockdown. They literally seal themselves inside the house so there's absolutely no outside contamination. And get this, by the very next morning, they'd already recorded their first piece of unexplainable evidence.
And look, this was not just a couple of people with flashlights. These guys came prepared with the whole paranormal toolkit. They had K2 meters to track electromagnetic fields, REM pods that can detect motion, an oviless, which is a wild device that tries to turn energy into actual words, and of course the famous spirit box, which scans radio waves for spirit voices. And that first anomaly? It was a doozy. Barbara's playing back her audio recordings, and she hears a woman's voice, clear as day. Her first thought was, oh, that's just my teammate Lori on the phone. But when she asked her, Lori was like, nope, I just woke up, haven't even touched my phone. And remember, they were the only two women in a house that was completely locked down.
But as the sun went down, things started to escalate. The subtle little oddities from the daytime, they gave way to something way more active and honestly way more menacing. It really felt like the house itself was waking up.
The team decides, let's check out the attic. The second they crack open that door, whoosh, this blast of cold air just rushes out at them. Then, inside, both Dean and Lori see it, a clear shadow figure moving near this old dusty altar. And then the air just fills with this overpowering smell of cigarettes. But nobody on the team smoked or had anything like that with them. So, after that creepy attic experience, the team's attention gets pulled towards this one door on the second floor. It was old, weathered, and looked like it hadn't been opened in 100 years. And they said they could just feel a presence coming from the other side.
So, to try and get a response, Barbara walks up to the door and gently knocks 3 times. The classic invitation for a spirit to respond.
And believe it or not, they got something back. A really soft, faint sound from inside. It was like an acknowledgement. But then, just as the team is slowly backing away, this incredibly loud, violent bang erupts from the door. The sound was so intense, it was as if something had just hurled its entire body against the wood from the other side.
And if that wasn't terrifying enough, what came next was even worse. The bang was immediately followed by a laugh, faint, but you could hear it. A mocking, chilling laugh that told them they weren't dealing with some passive energy. This thing was intelligent, and maybe, just maybe, it was messing with them.
The team figured out that the banging, the laughter, it was all coming from the basement. And even though they were probably scared out of their minds, they knew what they had to do. They had to go down there and confront whatever it was.
They really thought the basement was the heart of all this activity, the epicenter. So they grabbed their gear, took a deep breath, and headed down into the dark, ready to capture whatever was waiting for them.
Once they're down there,
In the pitch black, Barbara asks the question that's just hanging in the air. If someone is here, tell us your name. And then, just silence. The team held their breath. Every camera was rolling, every recorder was listening. You could hear a pin drop. And then, after what probably felt like an eternity, the spirit box just crackles. And cutting through all that static, one single, crystal-clear word comes through. A name. Emily. This was it. This was the moment everything just clicked into place. The name that came through their scientific equipment was the exact same name from the old local legend. That story about the little girl who disappeared, it suddenly felt terrifyingly real. So, what does this all mean? Well, before the Ghost Research Society showed up, Bellair House was basically just a scary story you'd tell around a campfire. But afterward, it became something else, a case study with actual documented evidence. They turned ghost stories into recorded activity, and a so-called haunted house into a place with a story that was finally, at least in some small way, being heard. The investigation at Bellair House really transformed a local legend into something with documented proof, something we just can't quite explain, and it leaves us with one last, kind of spooky question. Knowing what they found inside, would you be brave enough to open that door and step inside?